Imagine a sea with no bottom, no end, and no shore in sight. So vast, you cannot take it all in from the coast. It is not an ocean, and it is not a bay. It is a lake. The largest lake on our planet, the Caspian Sea. But today, it is disappearing right before our eyes, and almost no one is talking about it. Subscribe to our channel. It is going to be interesting. The Caspian Sea lies between Europe and Asia. Its area is about 370,000 square kilometers. That is larger than many European countries. The length of this body of water from north to south is about 1,200 kilometers. In some places, its width reaches more than 400 kilometers. Its waters wash the shores of 5 countries: Russia, Kazakhstan, Turkmenistan, Iran, and Azerbaijan. Despite the word sea in its name, the Caspian is a lake. Just a lake with no outlet to the world ocean. However, its scale is so enormous that people have called it a sea since ancient times. Real storms happen here, with waves up to 5 meters high and even higher. Large ships sail here, and port terminals operate here. Oil and gas are extracted from its seabed. The history of the Caspian Sea goes back millions of years. Long ago, it was part of a huge ancient body of water that scientists call the Tethys Sea. Over time, the crust of the earth changed. Mountains rose higher, and the Caspian was cut off from other seas. That is how it became closed in. Since then, its water level has changed many times under the influence of climate and natural processes. For thousands of years, people lived along the shores of the Caspian. Cities and trade routes appeared here. Silk, spices, and furs were carried across these waters. Persian merchants, Russian Cossacks, Mongol warriors, all of them knew the Caspian as a source of life and a road. Fish, water, trade, all of this was given by the sea to the peoples around it. Today, major cities stand on the shores of the Caspian. Baku, the capital of Azerbaijan, is one of the best known. Astrakhan in the north, an important Russian port. Aktau in Kazakhstan, a young city with an oil history. Turkmenbashi in Turkmenistan. Bandar Anzali in Iran. All of them are tied to the sea, depend on it, and today they see how it is changing. The water level in the Caspian Sea began to drop noticeably in the 90s of the last century. Since then, the sea has already lost about 2 meters. That may not sound too frightening, but for such a shallow body of water as the northern part of the Caspian, it is a huge loss. There, the depth in some places is no more than 5 or 6 meters, and a 2-meter retreat of the water means the shoreline moves back by dozens of kilometers. The main river that feeds the Caspian with water is the Volga. It brings about 80% of the total volume of fresh water entering the sea. But in recent decades, the Volga has been getting shallower. Reservoirs have been built along its banks, and water is taken for irrigating fields, industrial needs, and city consumption. Less and less reaches the Caspian. The second reason for the falling water level is climate warming. The Caspian is losing water not only because river inflow is shrinking, but also because evaporation is increasing. When air temperature rises, water evaporates faster. And the Caspian is located in an arid region where summers can be extremely hot. Scientists have calculated that rising temperatures have become the main culprit behind the water level decline in recent years. The shoreline is retreating at a frightening pace. In the north, in the Russian part, huge stretches of seabed have been exposed. Where waves were splashing not long ago, there is now dry, cracked earth. Fishermen who used to go out to sea right from their villages now have to drag their boats for several kilometers across land before they can reach the water. Ports built many years ago are now in a difficult position. Piers designed for a certain depth now stand in shallow water or even on dry land. Ships cannot come close to shore. Part of the port infrastructure has become useless. Authorities are forced either to dredge the bottom or to build new piers farther from the old shoreline, which requires enormous amounts of money. Fishing in the Caspian has a centuries-old history. People caught sturgeon, carp, roach, zander, bream, and many other species here. Caspian fish ended up on the tables of people in many countries. But today, there is less and less fish. There are several reasons. The sea is getting shallower, the water is becoming polluted, and the routes fish take to spawning grounds are being disrupted. The sturgeon, once a symbol of the Caspian, is now threatened with extinction. This fish produced the famous caviar that was prized all over the world. In Soviet times, sturgeon were caught by the hundreds of thousands of tons a year. Today, their numbers have fallen so much that commercial fishing is effectively banned. Poaching is finishing off what remains of the population. The Caspian seal, the only seal species living in this sea, is going through a real tragedy. Back at the beginning of the 20th century, there were more than 1 million of them. Today, the population has fallen to roughly 100,000. The seals suffer from water pollution, a shrinking food base, disease, and the fact that the ice where they breed has started melting earlier than usual. Every spring, dead seals are found on the shores of the Caspian. Sometimes the count reaches the thousands. In 2021, more than 100 animals died on the coast of Kazakhstan. In 2023, another mass die-off occurred. Scientists connect the deaths of the seals to a combination of factors: pollution, viruses, lack of food, and stress from a changing environment. The oil industry appeared on the Caspian back in the 19th century. Baku became one of the first cities in the world where industrial oil production began. Today, oil and gas platforms stand right in the middle of the sea. Pipelines stretch across the seabed. Tens of millions of tons of oil are extracted here every year. This brings enormous money to the coastal countries, but it does serious damage to the ecosystem. Oil spills have happened in the Caspian more than once. Oil slicks kill birds, fish, and marine animals. They settle on the bottom and poison the water for many years. In addition to oil, industrial wastewater from factories, agricultural fertilizers from fields, and household waste from cities flow into the sea. All of this gradually accumulates in a closed body of water with no outlet. Pollution in the Caspian is especially dangerous precisely because it is a closed body of water. Unlike seas and oceans that exchange water with the world ocean, the Caspian has no such option. Everything that gets into it stays there. Filth builds up for decades. Natural self-cleaning happens very slowly, and the less water there is, the higher the concentration of pollutants becomes. The 5 states located along the shores of the Caspian could not agree for a long time even on how to divide this sea among themselves. The dispute was about whether the Caspian was a lake or a sea, because that determines which international rules should apply to dividing it. Only in 2018 was a convention on the legal status of the Caspian Sea signed, establishing the rights of each country. Despite the signed agreement, the environmental problems of the Caspian are still being solved with great difficulty. Each country pursues its own interests. Some want to extract more oil. Others are concerned about fishing. Others demand compensation from damage from their neighbors. There is still no common program to save the sea. Each country pulls in its own direction, while the sea keeps getting shallower. Local residents whose lives are tied to the Caspian notice the changes better than any scientists. Elderly fishermen say that fish used to literally swarm in the water, while now you may catch only a handful in a whole day. Farmers in the Volga Delta see channels drying up where boats once sailed. Children in coastal cities no longer swim where their parents swam because the shore has shifted. Scientists and climate experts look at the future of the Caspian with alarm. Their forecasts are grim. If current trends continue, by the end of this century, the water level in the Caspian could fall by another 10 meters, and, under some scenarios, by 18 meters. This means catastrophe for the ecosystem, for fishing, for coastal cities, and for millions of people. Here, it is impossible not to remember the Aral Sea. It was once the fourth largest closed body of water in the world. It was located between Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan. In the middle of the 20th century, Soviet authorities began large-scale withdrawal of water from the Amu Darya and Sir Darya rivers to irrigate cotton fields. The result was catastrophic. By the end of the 20th century, the Aral Sea had practically disappeared. Only small, salty pools were left from the huge body of water. The former seabed turned into salt flats and desert. Fishing ships stand rusting in the sands, far from the water. Cities that were once ports ended up hundreds of kilometers from the shore. Hundreds of thousands of people lost their jobs and were forced to leave. The ecological disaster of the Aral Sea became one of the worst in human history. From the exposed bottom, wind lifts salt and toxic dust that spreads for hundreds of kilometers. People in the region suffer from respiratory diseases, cancer, and anemia. The climate around the former sea changed. Winters became colder, summers hotter, and rainfall lower. The fate of the Aral Sea is a warning to the whole world, and the Caspian Sea risks following the same path, even if not as quickly. Yes, the Caspian is much larger than the Aral. Yes, it has a natural inflow of water, but the destructive factors are similar: climate change, excessive water withdrawal, pollution, and the absence of coordinated management of the body of water among several states. Some experts point out that the Caspian still has a chance. Unlike the Aral, it has not been completely deprived of its main source of water. The Volga still flows into the sea. The situation can be improved if water withdrawal from rivers is reduced, pollution is cut, strict limits are placed on fishing, and international cooperation is established. But this requires political will, which is clearly still lacking. In some coastal areas, attempts at adaptation have already begun. In Kazakhstan, dams and canals are being built to hold water in separate parts of the former shore. In Russia, programs are being developed to support the fishing industry and restore sturgeon populations. In Azerbaijan, there is talk of stricter control over oil platforms. But all of this is a set of separate measures, not a common strategy. Coastal cities are forced to spend huge amounts of money rebuilding infrastructure. Where there used to be a promenade and a beach, there is now bare land. The tourism business is taking losses. Hotels built right by the water now stand far from the shore. Some fishing settlements even had to be moved because they were overwhelmed not by waves, but by dust from the exposed bottom. Interestingly, the water level of the Caspian was not always falling. In the middle of the last century, the sea was rising instead. In the 80s and 90s, the water came in so fast that it flooded thousands of hectares of land, buildings, and roads along the coast. Back then, people complained about flooding. Now, it is the opposite. This shows that the Caspian is extremely sensitive to any changes in climate and water balance. The Caspian Sea has unique wildlife. Species live here that are found nowhere else on Earth. The Caspian lamprey, the Caspian kilka, the Caspian salmon, the Caspian seal. These animals adapted to life in a closed, brackish body of water over millions of years of evolution. If the sea keeps getting shallower and more polluted, many of them will simply disappear forever. The Caspian kilka was long the foundation of the fishing industry. It was caught in huge quantities and used to make canned food, meal, and fish oil. But at the end of the 20th century, a comb jelly entered the sea, a small marine creature brought by ships from the Black Sea in ballast water. This newcomer ate the plankton that the kilka fed on. The kilka population collapsed several times over in a short period. The collapse of kilka stocks triggered a chain reaction. Seals that fed on kilka lost their main food. Birds nesting on the shores of the Caspian also lost part of their diet. Fishing villages that lived off kilka were left without income. One tiny organism, after entering an unfamiliar environment, disrupted the entire food chain of a vast body of water. The water temperature in the Caspian is rising. Over the past half-century, it has increased by about 1 degree. This may seem insignificant, but for fish and other aquatic creatures, even slight warming can be critical. Spawning times change, habitats shift, some species push out others. An ecosystem that formed over millions of years is reorganizing faster than it can adapt. The Volga Delta, which flows into the northern Caspian, is one of the richest natural places in Europe and Asia. Thousands of species of birds, fish, and plants live here. Lotus fields blooming in summer attract tourists from all over the world. But the delta is suffering too. Channels are getting shallower, some branches are drying out, and the area of wetlands is shrinking. This hits nature and tourism at the same time. The Iranian coast of the Caspian is the most densely populated. Tens of millions of people live here. Gilan and Mazandaran provinces are known for their nature, rice fields, and fishing. Iranian fishermen also notice that catches are falling year after year. At the same time, Iran long opposed new pipelines along the Caspian seabed, fearing environmental consequences. This created additional tensions among the coastal countries. Kazakhstan has the longest Caspian coastline. The country actively produces oil on its shelf. The Kashagan field, one of the largest in the world, is located right in the sea. Production here comes with serious environmental risks. Hydrogen sulfide leaks have happened several times, and this gas is extremely dangerous for living creatures. Nevertheless, production continues because oil brings enormous revenue. Turkmenistan has significant oil and gas reserves on its section of the Caspian Shelf. For a long time, the country stayed on the sidelines of international negotiations on the Caspian, following a policy of neutrality. However, environmental problems do not pass it by. The coastal areas of Turkmenistan also suffer from falling water levels and pollution. Russia has historically considered the Caspian a zone of its influence. Astrakhan and the surrounding areas have lived from fishing since ancient times. The Caspian Flotilla, a special Russian naval formation, is based in this region. However, today the main concern for Russia is not military, but environmental. The shallowing of the northern Caspian, the shallowest part of the sea, directly affects the interests of fishermen and residents of coastal villages. International organizations have repeatedly drawn attention to the problems of the Caspian. The United Nations Environment Program supported projects to study the ecosystem of the sea. The Caspian Environment Program was created. But funding remained insufficient, and political disagreements among the countries hindered the implementation of joint measures. Beautiful declarations about protecting nature never turned into real action on the needed scale. Scientists from different countries monitor the condition of the Caspian using satellites, buoys, and research expeditions. Data is collected for years. Models and forecasts are built. But between scientific knowledge and political decisions lies an enormous gap. Governments delay, postpone, and wait for a more convenient moment. The sea does not wait. Is there hope? Yes, there is. Humanity has already saved bodies of water that seemed doomed. The Great Lakes in North America were heavily polluted by industrial wastewater in the middle of the 20th century. Through joint efforts by the United States and Canada, degradation was stopped and the ecosystem was gradually restored. Lake Baikal in Russia also faced serious threats, and public pressure helped shut down the most dangerous enterprises. For the Caspian, the path to recovery runs through several essential steps. First of all, water withdrawal from the rivers that feed the sea must be reduced. It is especially important to use the water of the Volga wisely. Next, industrial and household pollution must be sharply reduced. Oil companies must bear real responsibility for spills and leaks. Poaching must be prosecuted harshly. Restoring fish stocks requires time and patience. Fish hatcheries that raise sturgeon and other valuable species are already operating in several coastal countries. But the released juveniles are not enough to compensate for years of damage. Funding for these programs must be increased many times over, while fishing must be strictly controlled at the same time. The Caspian seal needs special protection. To do this, protected marine zones must be created where oil production, shipping, and fishing will be restricted. The seal haul-out and breeding sites must be completely closed to economic activity. In addition, water pollution must be reduced because it undermines the immune systems of the animals and makes them vulnerable to disease. Coastal cities and villages need to start thinking about the future right now. If the water level keeps falling, some settlements will end up far from the shore. It is necessary to plan in advance how transportation routes will change, where new piers will be, and how the fishing industry will be rebuilt. It is better to prepare ahead of time than to deal with the consequences in a rush later. Climate change, the main long-term threat to the Caspian, requires a global response. Until humanity reduces emissions of gases that create the greenhouse effect, the temperature of the planet will keep rising. That means evaporation from the surface of the Caspian will intensify as well. This problem cannot be solved by the 5 coastal countries alone. It requires the efforts of the entire global community. The Caspian Sea is not just a natural object. It is a living system that has fed, watered, connected, and inspired millions of people for thousands of years. Its fate depends on the decisions being made today. And whether this sea remains on the map for our descendants depends on whether the 5 countries, scientists, businesses, and ordinary people can find the strength to act together. The Caspian Sea is getting shallower. This is a fact that cannot be denied and cannot be ignored. The water level is falling, the shores are retreating, fish are disappearing, seals are dying, ports are emptying, and the 5 states still cannot work out a common rescue strategy. The history of the Aral Sea showed what inaction leads to. We still have time to prevent the same fate for the Caspian, but that time is not endless. Subscribe to our channel, like this video, and write in the comments what you think about the fate of the Caspian Sea. Your opinion matters.